A moment of silence for me. Hello lovely people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Maya. If you've never been here before, welcome, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below if you like the video and give it a thumbs up if you want to see more like this. Alright, so today's video we are doing my August reading wrap up and we are doing my TBR game for Becca's BOOKOPLATHON. So we'll get to the BOOKOPLATHON TBR momentarily, but first let's go over what I read for the month of August. Alright, so the first book that I read for the month of August is The Widows of Malabar Hill by Sujata Massey. I don't have any of the books that I read this month because they're all from the library and they've all gone back, so we'll put something up on the screen. So I gave this book a 3 out of 5 stars. Let me read you the premise. It's historical fiction set in 1921 in Bombay. So Parveen is the daughter of a respected Zoroastrian family, and she's just joined her father's law firm, becoming one of the first female lawyers in India. Armed with a legal education from Oxford, Parveen also has a tragic personal history that makes her especially devoted to championing and protecting women's rights. Mystery law is handling the will of Omar Fareed, a wealthy Muslim mill owner who has left 3 widows behind. But as Parveen goes through the papers, she notices something strange. All 3 widows have signed over their inheritance to a charity. What will they live on if they forfeit what their husband left for them? Parveen is suspicious. The Fareed widows live in purdah, strict seclusion, never leaving the women's quarters or speaking to any men. Are they being taken advantage of by an unscrupulous guardian? Parveen tries to investigate and realizes her instincts about the will were correct when tensions escalate to murder. It's her responsibility to figure out what really happened on Malabar Hill and to ensure that nobody is in further danger. This isn't really my style of book that I would normally read, but it was the first read of the month for the Not Wasting My 20s book club. Because one of the admin moderators actually knows Sujata and brought her for an author talk, which was super interesting. I really did enjoy this book. I really enjoyed the history, learning about the culture. Yeah, I actually think that I gave it 3.5 stars on Storygraph, where you can give point stars. Let me just go to Storygraph because it's arguably the better one. Yes, 3.5 stars. So I really did enjoy this book, but not the most compelling read. It took me about 100 pages to really get into it, but I really liked it, and it's actually a trilogy, so I probably will pick up the second book sometime when I just want something to read. But it was really fun to read some historical fiction. The second book that I read for the month of August was Homebody by Rupi Kaur, and I gave it 4.5 stars. So this is a poetry book. Let me read you the little synopsis. Rupi Kaur constantly embraces growth, and in Homebody she walks readers through a reflective and intimate journey, visiting the past, the present, and the potential of the self. Homebody is a collection of raw, honest conversations with oneself, reminding readers to fill up on love, acceptance, community, family, and embrace change. This book, I think it was really pertinent to me at the time. I really enjoyed reading it. A lot of the poems spoke to me. I took so many notes. If you watched, not last week's video, but the video before, I talked about it a bit. Yeah, I wrote down so many poems and it really stuck out to me. That really stuck out to me, and the book was just fantastic. So I don't normally rate poetry books and nonfiction, so that was just kind of my general review, but I did rate it 4.5 stars on Storygraph. The third book that I read this month was Trick Mirror by Gia Tolentino, and this was the second the second book that we read for the Not Wasting My 20s book club for the month. This is a collection of essays. Let's see here. I did give it 5 stars, and I do think it was probably the best book that I've read yet this year, so I'll get into that in a second, but the description is: Trick Mirror is an enlightening, unforgettable trip through the river of self-delusion that surges just beneath the surface of our lives. This is a book about the incentives that shape us and about how hard it is to see ourselves clearly through a culture that revolves around the self. In each essay, Tolentino writes about a cultural prism, the rise of the nightmare social internet, the advent of scamming as the definitive millennial ethos, the literary heroine, I can never say that word, heroine's journey from brave to blank to bitter, the punitive dream of optimization, which insists that everything, including our bodies, should become more efficient and beautiful until we die. I read this actually, it was the first book I've ever owned that was on Kindle, which was super cool because you can like highlight things and look things up, which was definitely necessary. There were 9 essays, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 9 essays. All of them were on such different topics, but all of them had like certain things that stuck out to me, and I highlighted a lot of things. The ones I enjoyed the most were definitely The Iron Internet, Always Be Optimizing, The Story of a Generation in 7 Scams, and I the Dread. So there are so many different topics covered in this book, from sexual assault, so be aware that that is in one of the essays, to the internet, to athleisure, to like bar classes, Fire Festival, which really was like, I love Fire Festival. But yeah, a lot of things really hit home and they were really interesting to think about, and the way she writes is just so compelling, so I really enjoyed it. Yeah, I think it's the best book that I read all year, so that is my biggest recommendation from this video so far. So the 4th book that I'm hoping to have finished by the end of August, it's currently August 27th when I'm filming this, but I have to pre-film to get it up because I'm going on holiday next week, is Loveless by Alice Oseman. I'm working on finishing it. I'm about 100 and some pages in, so I gotta read a lot this weekend. I think I did talk about this because I had intended to read it in a different month, but I'll just tell you again. Georgia has never been in love, never kissed anyone, never even had a crush, but as a fanfic-obsessed romantic, she's sure she'll find her passion one day. As she starts university with her best friends, Pip and Jason, in a whole new town far from home, Georgia's ready to find romance, and with her outgoing roommate on her side and a place in the Shakespeare Society, her teenage dream is in sight. But when her romance plans wreak havoc amongst her friends, Georgia ends up in her own comedy of errors and starts to question why love seems so easy for other people but not her. So this book has asexual representation. We haven't really gotten to that part, but it's just like a general knowledge about this book. I am only, like I said, just over 100 pages in. I'm really enjoying this book. I don't think that anyone can tell the story of like young adult like inner thoughts and feelings like Alice Oseman. Like there are so many times where I've been like, wow, that's exactly how I would have reacted. So I'm really enjoying it so far. Not sure about the romance that has started. Not sure how I feel about that yet, but I've totally been in that situation. Anyway, I'm really hoping to get that done by the end of August, which would bring my total for the year to 17, which is 5 books over my goal of 12, 1 book a month. I've been reading many more than that, which is super exciting. Now we get to jump into the fun part, which is the Becca's Bookoplathon TBR. So here's my little board. I won't go into too much detail about what Becca's Bookoplathon is because I will link her video down below. But essentially every month, Becca from Becca and the Books has her own TBR game, which is a Monopoly board, and she rolls the dice and moves around and picks books based on the prompts. So for the month of September, she made everyone participating a new board that's more, I would say, vague than her board, so there's a lot to choose from, which is great because I don't like fantasy and most of the books that she reads are fantasy. So I was very happy to see no prompts on here that explicitly said fantasy, but spoiler alert, I think I'm gonna have to read a fantasy. I went ahead and rolled all the rolls before this just to get that out of the way, so I'll insert them as I go. I figured out my TBR, I've gotten the books that I need from the library, and let's just jump in. Let's air the first roll. So for the first roll, we have smallest book on TBR. So I'm gonna go in here to my Goodreads and I'm just gonna show you that I'm not cheating for the book that I got. Go into my Goodreads, go into my books. Oh, maybe I can't do it on here. Go into want to read. Yes, sort by number of pages and reverse to the lowest number of pages. So the shortest book on my TBR, that's actually a book because this one, Don't Freaking Panic, is more of like an activity book. So the first book that was on my list is Kill All Normies, Online Culture Wars from 4chan and Tumblr to Trump and the Alt-Right. So this is a nonfiction book by Angela Nagel. I just got it from the library today. Super short. According to this, it's only 136 pages, which is great because I will just zoom through that. But this was actually one of the books referenced in Trick Mirror in the internet section, so I'll read you the back. Recent years have seen a revival of the bitter and heated culture wars of the 1990s, but this time its battleground is the internet. On one side, the alt-right ranges from the once obscure and bizarre neo-reactionary and white supremacist movements to geeky subcultures like 4chan to more mainstream manifestations such as the Trump-supporting gay libertarian Milo Yiannopoulos. On the other side of the war, the culture of struggle sessions and virtue signaling lurks behind a therapeutic language of trigger warnings and safe spaces. The feminist side of the online culture wars has its equally geeky subcultures right through to its mainstream expression. Kill All Normies explores some of the cultural genealogies and past parallels of these styles and subcultures, drawing from transgressive styles of 60s libertinism movement and conservative movements, and to make the case for a rejection of the perpetual cultural turn. So I appreciate this sounds like a textbook, but I'm actually super interested in this entire concept. So I put this one on hold and I got it today. So this is likely what I'm gonna read, but I do have another option if I don't feel like reading nonfiction for that, and that is the first fiction book on my list, which is The New Me by Hallie Butler, which is 193 pages. It is on hold at the library, but I don't know when I'm gonna get it, and so if I don't get it before vacation, then I'll probably just read the nonfiction. But this book is a biting satire of the false promise of reinvention. 30-year-old Millie just can't pull it together. Misanthropic and morose, she spends her day killing time at a thankless job until she can return home to her empty apartment, where she oscillates wildly between self-recrimination and mild delusion, fixating on all the little ways she might change her life. Then she watches TV until she drops off to sleep and the cycle begins again. When the possibility of a full-time job offer arises, it seems to bring the better life she's envisioning. One that involves nicer clothes, fresh produce, and maybe even financial independence within reach. But with it also comes the paralyzing realization lurking just beneath the surface of how hollow that vision has become. So it's like a comedy. It says it's a dizzying descent into the mind of a young woman trapped in the funhouse of American consumer culture. Kind of sounds like sad, but I think it will be interesting. It's got pretty good, well, it's got about 3.4 stars, so. Anyway, I have put that on hold at the library. Don't know if I'll get it, so we'll see. But I picked 2 for that just in case I don't feel like reading nonfiction. So, on to the next. Okay, so the next prompt is new, and the way Becca described this is as a book. Did I screenshot it? Give me 1 second to pull it up. Well, while we're here, a brief little intermission. I'm gonna plug that I started a new Twitter account. It's just Maya Catherine YT, Maya Catherine YouTube, for all things books, because I am slowly moving this channel towards more books, more book content. So you can look forward to that. Here we go. I'm just pulling this tweet up, the guide. So definitely go follow me on there. So if you want to, come follow me there. Okay. Becca's actually like made a whole guide of what all the spaces mean. But new. read a book that is either pretty new, so you haven't heard many people review it yet, or a book you heard a lot of buzz about when it was first released, but haven't heard much since. So I don't believe I'm cheating on this prompt. But for this book, I have chosen Of Women and Salt by Gabriela Garcia, which is the book club read for this month. And I'm slightly cheating because I had never heard of this before, but I guess it fits. Like, it's new and I haven't heard much about it, but also it was touted as one of the most anticipated reads of 2021, and I haven't heard anyone talk about it. So I think it fits both prompts. So let me summarize what this one's about. In present-day Miami, Jeanette is battling addiction. Daughter of Carmen, a Cuban immigrant, she is determined to learn more about her family history from her reticent mother, and makes the snap decision to take in the daughter of a neighbor detained by ICE. Carmen, still wrestling with the trauma of displacement, must process her difficult relationship with her own mother while trying to raise a wayward Jeanette. Steadfast in her quest for understanding, Jeanette travels to Cuba to see her grandmother and reckon with secrets from the past destined to erupt. From 19th century cigar factories to present-day detention centers, from Cuba to Mexico, Of Women and Salt is a kaleidoscopic portrait of betrayals, personal and political, self-inflicted, and those done by others, that have shaped the lives of these extraordinary women. A haunting meditation of the choices of mothers, the legacy of the memories they carry, and the tenacity of women who choose to tell their stories despite those who wish to silence them. This is more than a diaspora story. It is a story of America's most tangled, honest human roots. So I'm actually really excited about this. I hadn't heard anything about it. I just bought it today for book club, but I'm really excited. We're reading this and one other novel that's written by a Latinx author, because I think it's National Latinx History Month in September, so we wanted to do that. I'm not sure I'm going to get to the other book for book club, which is a memoir about a woman who starred in Orange is the New Black and Jane the Virgin, but I don't know who she is. So I'll leave the book on the screen, but I don't know that I'm going to get to it because this is 4 books, and I don't normally read more than 4. So anyway, this is the second one. On to the next. Alright, so here's where it gets fun. So the third role is Becca Rec. So as I mentioned earlier in the video, Becca reads a lot of fantasy, and I dislike fantasy. So I went through all of her recommendations, I went through her Goodreads, I went through everything, and the only book that I actually considered that I would maybe enjoy from her recommendations, and because it's so hyped and I just want to know, like, I want to understand when people talk about it, is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. A moment of silence for me because this is gonna be a hard read. I don't have it yet because my friend Megan is graciously lending it to me, but I haven't gotten it from her yet. So that'll probably be one of the last books that I read in the month of September because it's long and it's not a book club pick or from the library, so I have less of a time limit on it. Yeah, I guess I should pull up the summary, although I think if you are on Book Talk or BookTube, you probably know what it is. Okay. I don't even know how to pronounce the name of the character. Fair's survival, please correct me in the comments when I'm wrong, rests upon her ability to hunt and kill. The forest where she lives is a cold, bleak place in the long winter months, so when she spots a deer in the forest being pursued by a wolf, she cannot resist fighting it for the flesh. But to do so, she must kill the predator, and killing something so precious comes at a price. Oh, interesting. Okay. Dragged into a magical kingdom for the murder of a fairy. How did I decide we were pronouncing her name? Feyre? I'm Googling. Feyre. Okay, so it's Feyre. That makes more sense. Feyre discovers, yeah, that makes sense, that her captor, his face obscured by a jeweled mask, is hiding far more than his piercing green eyes would suggest. I can't even remember now. Feyre's presence at the court is closely guarded, and as she begins to learn why, her feelings for him turn from hostility to passion, and fairy lands become an even more dangerous place. Feyre must fight to break an ancient curse, or she will lose him forever. Fun. All of my friends have rated it 5 stars on Goodreads. And I do trust them, but they also like fantasy, and I don't. So this will be interesting, because I also hate romance, so I feel like this is a romance and fantasy combined, so that will be fun. Yay! On to the next rule. Alright, the last roll we got is the day/night square. So this square, I'll pull up what Becca said again here. Okay, train station, times of day. Read a book with a time of day in the title. All variations of night and day count, like the day of the week also counts, or dark or light also counts. So I went through my TBR, and the only book in my TBR that refers to a day or a time of day is Emma in the Night by Wendy Walker. Basically, to make this TBR, I've just been writing down books for probably a year that I've seen that sound interesting, and I had no idea what this one was about, but I will read you the inside because I think it's actually going to be pretty good. One night, 15-year-old Cass and her 17-year-old sister Emma disappear. The family car is found deserted at a nearby beach, but the authorities baffled. God, it's like 8 o'clock at night and it's been a long day, friends. I'll do better. One night, 15-year-old Cass and her 17-year-old sister Emma disappear. The family car is found deserted at a nearby beach, but the authorities are baffled by what could have become of them. 3 years later, with just the clothes on her back and no evidence or credibility to back up her claims of what happened, Cass returns home without her sister. Her tale is one of kidnapping and isolation and the mysterious island where the two were held. But Cass's story has holes, and to forensic psychologist Dr. Abby Winter, something about it just doesn't add up. As an expert in narcissistic personality disorder, Dr. Winter looks deeply into Cass's family to uncover the truth. She looks at the mother, a woman so beautiful on the surface and so damaged and damaging beneath. She looks at the stepfather and the stepbrother, each so uniquely troubled and dangerous. And she looks at Cass herself. What she finds will shock those searching for Emma and reveal a twisted story of a deeply dysfunctional family and the lengths to which Cass has gone to bring about redemption. So this sounds like a good thriller. I also grabbed this one from the library. Came in super quick, so I'm really excited. It's about just over 300 pages, so that shouldn't be a difficult read either. And yeah, those are the 4 books that I am trying to read this month. I would love to get to the Inheritance Games this month. I would love to get to this book that we're reading for book club. Yeah, I'd love to read that if I have time too. But I'm also starting school again, and also working, and also doing a lot of other things. So I don't know if I'm going to get to more than 4 books this month, but if I complete this TBR, I will be super happy. And yeah, so stay tuned for vlogs for my trip coming up in the next couple of weeks. Stay tuned for some reading vlogs, some back to school content. I'm going to bring you all the content. Make sure that you're following my new Twitter account, Instagram, at MayaCatherine_Creative. Goodreads, I'll put Storygraph down below, Spotify, TikTok, all those good things. And thank you so much for watching. If you are doing Becca's Bookoplathon, leave a comment down below what book you are most excited to read. And also, like, how is it possible I didn't get any doubles? I'm very proud of myself for not getting any doubles, because then I only had to read 4 books. So thank you, Bookoplathon gods, for being on my side with that. And anyway, I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!